Hello artists, welcome to Mr. Melvin Makes. Today I am drawing dinosaur skulls. On a handout I have directions for how to draw two different dinos. On top is a Triceratops skull and underneath is a Tyrannosaurus Rex skull. In this video I'm going to show you how you can draw both of these. For this project you're going to need a tan piece of paper but also a smaller gray piece of paper. I'm going to put my name on the back of my larger tan piece of paper since I'm working in my classroom today, and then I'm going to begin drawing on my small gray piece of paper in a second here. Remember, it's always a great idea to use a pencil first when you're doing a drawing, especially if it's something you've never drawn before. I'm going to begin with a T-Rex skull following step number 1. In this step, I'm drawing the top of the skull, sort of in the shape of a rounded triangle. Step number 2 is adding the bottom jaw, which is a lot like a bent oval, sort of in the shape of a macaroni noodle. And then lastly, I'm adding details in step number 3 for the teeth and eyes. Now that I have my T-Rex skull all drawn out in pencil, I'm going to use a Sharpie and then some construction paper crayons to add extra details and an outline. Watch as I finish this step. Super happy with how my T-Rex skull turned out. I'm going to go ahead and do the Triceratops skull next, but know that if you're following along with me, you can either just do a T-Rex skull, you can do both, or any number of either. You can even try dinosaurs that I'm not showing today, if you're following along with me. Personally, I think the Triceratops skull is a little trickier than our T-Rex, but it's still 3 steps and easy enough if you follow along. Step number 1 is drawing sort of like an incomplete triangle, making sure that the top part of it is pointy and then the bottom right side does not touch. Because on the bottom right side, you're going to add kind of a rounded rectangle in the shape of a skull, with a little bump on top for where the eyes go. Lastly, step number 3 is adding in details, showing where the mouth, eyes, and then horns on our Triceratops will be. This one can be a little tricky, but just give it a shot. I know you'll do great. Just like before, I'm going to use Sharpie and construction paper crayons to add details and an outline to this skull. Afterwards, I have 2 skulls on my gray paper, and I'm ready to switch over to a pair of scissors and cut both out. These will become part of a larger picture, which will take place on that tan paper from before. The big idea for this art project is to create an archaeological dig site filled with fossils. My first step in completing that is gluing down the skulls I drew on my gray paper. I'm going to use just a couple of dots to do that, and then once I'm all done, I'll make sure I recycle the rest of my gray scraps. To keep working on my fossil project, I will use texture plates and crayons to add decorations to my tan paper. Because I'm using wet Elmer's glue today, I want to make sure that I give my paper enough time to dry before I add color to it. So I set my artwork on my drying rack, and then I'll return back to work when it's ready. My next and final step is to add details to my tan paper with textures. To make textures on my paper, I'm going to use sandpaper and texture plates to create impressions with crayon on top of my tan paper. To do this, you need to take your texture plate or sandpaper, set it under the paper you're drawing on, and then rub over the top of it using crayons in whatever color you choose. Today, because I really want this to look like the ground, I'm choosing colors that resemble the ground, like brown, tan, and gray. Follow along and see how, as I press the crayon over the texture plate, those textures appear on my paper. Using texture plates and sandpaper to create impressions can be a really fun project. However, be careful not to add too much color in a way that just kind of looks like scribble on your paper. You really want it to look like this is a fossil site. So try to use a variety of texture plates, a variety of colors, in creative ways that really look like the ground. Keep watching to see how I try my best to do that, and then give it a shot yourself. After finishing up with my texture plates and sandpaper, I had a feeling that I just needed to add something a little bit more. So to make my dig site a little bit more special, I'm adding in some rare gems, a couple loose bones here and there, and just other things I might expect to see at a dig site. When I'm all finished, I'm going to add my signature to the front and then probably show off my work to my friends. I'm really happy with my fossil dig site, and I hope that if you made one today too, that you are also feeling just as proud as I am. Happy making, artists!